Hi everyone. It has been 2 days since Kirk was assassinated, and for those of you unawares, I've been in the trenches on Twitter. The internet, it's so complicated because it's like one of the most beloved spaces to me. I always grew up never feeling like quite seen by any social space, and then I came across internet culture, mostly upon meeting Nick, and it's like I found my people, and I feel like I'm watching this space that I love get destroyed by radicalism. I think going forward, things are going to change, and I'm terrified that it won't be for the better. And I'm terrified that it won't be for the better because it feels like there is no strong enough people standing up or working together to fight for principles, to fight for what we believe in, what we actually believe in as humans, part of a Western liberal democracy that believes in voting and the sanctity of the vote and free thought and free speech and free association. I'm terrified that people have decided that their rage matters more than these things. I've counseled and been part of kind of like therapeutic spaces before around grief. I'm familiar with it. I understand, especially grief when it's triggered suddenly and unexpectedly, like losing a loved one in a car crash, an assassination, that rage is a major part of this grief. It is a necessary process. When the Minnesota lawmakers were assassinated in their homes with their dog, we felt rage. For Republicans and conservatives, many of whom deeply looked up to Charlie Kirk, their rage is the same rage we would feel if Brian Tyler Cohen or some other major kind of self-made liberal creator had been assassinated in cold blood because people didn't like his speech. And I didn't like Kirk's speech. I was part of the Unfuck America tour. I was part of a tour that was actively protesting Kirk's speech. But that's the point, is I was protesting it, which is what we're supposed to do. That's the process by which, as democratic citizens, we agree to, is that we can say things and others won't like it, and we have a battle of ideas and rhetoric and protest, and we hurl insults at each other, and we're mean, but we get unified under certain principles, and those principles are things like free speech. I might call you a dumb asshole and a retard. I might say that you love fascism, but I definitely don't want you to get murdered. And a lot of people, a lot of pundits, particularly right now on the right, although to be clear, I've seen pundits on the left starting to do this as well, and have in the past, they're just blaming it on the space and hateful isms. I've seen so many people say, if you ever called Charlie Kirk a Nazi or a fascist, you're part of the problem. And you're right, and you're wrong. There's a part of me that says, you're right, this tendency to call everyone that we disagree with the greatest evil ism that we can find, which started with sexism and elevated to racism, and when that fell on deaf ears, we've now migrated to fascism, is something I've always hated. If you're at all familiar with my channel, you know that I have been fighting with those significantly further left than me on this topic. I have many debates on cancel culture, which I've been vehemently opposed to. And it's frustrating because in some ways you're right that this argument that the left utilized from about 2016 to 2022, which is just you're bad and evil and therefore we don't have to engage with you or listen to you, we can just cancel you off of platforms so you just echo chamber on Telegram and Gab. Tons of people said, this is stupid. All they're going to do is radicalize elsewhere because we won't talk to them. And part of this is wrong because the issue isn't that people called Charlie Kirk a fascist in and of itself. It's that we, on both sides, have suddenly decided that dehumanizing rhetoric sells, it's sexy, it works, it's partisan. And so there's this problem that the algorithm drives the extremeness, and that if you want to grow, you're better served being partisan to whatever in-group you want to participate in. And for the people who don't want to participate in that, good fucking luck. No one's ever going to listen to you. Political violence is increasingly plaguing our country. What's not fair and what's not okay is for your rage to turn into justifying further violence. And that's what I'm seeing now. Let me read you something from Benny Johnson today. No one seems willing to say it, so I will. Just by the way, most Republican pundits have been saying the same thing, so Benny's just slow to the drop. But anyways, the modern Democratic Party is not sorry when political violence happens. They want it to happen. They create the conditions for it.
And the playbook is quite simple. You demonize at a corporate media level. You call everyone Hitler and fascist and irredeemable and deplorable. Then you fund groups to organize against those people who you've demonized. Then you arm them. You ensure that they have a militia-style mindset. This is done through TikTok and mass formation psychosis and the allowance of left-wing violence and the promotion of Luigi-style left-wing murderous terrorism. You lionize and venerate like the transgender shooter that just massacred children in Minneapolis. You hop people up on pharmaceuticals and drugs to make them out of their mind. And then you say you'd be a hero if you went and shot Hitler.
I actually just can't tell right now if he ChatGPT'd current trending popular Republican talking points and just tried to shell them all together. Big pharma bad, the Taylor Lorenz chorus stuff, corporate media, anti-establishment general stuff. I almost have no words. I have no words for this. Let's finish it.
And that's the playbook. And that, I believe, is what needs to be destroyed in this nation. That is a playbook that is going to end in civil war, Megan. It's something that is going to end horribly in sectarian violence in this country. And the left is running that playbook. We are not. I hear that Joe Biden has terminal cancer. I say prayers and blessings to his family. I think Joe Biden wrecked the country. I think there hasn't been a worse president in my lifetime, but I'm not going to sit there and wish ill on him. Never have I ever wished ill or harm on a fellow American ever, nor will I. That is the difference between us and the animals, Megan, because they are celebrating right now. They want more of this. They're targeting you. They're targeting me. Yes. They're saying, who's next? Ben Shapiro, Steven Crowder, Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly. That's what's happening. That's what needs to be targeted. That is, and I will say it to its face, that is evil, demonic activity from the pit of hell. You have lost your humanity, but it is the end stage of the dehumanization of the other, of your political enemy. And this has been an op that has been run on this country. And Charlie Kirk is, in part, a victim and a martyr because of that op. And shame and a pox on the House and a forever curse on every media organization, including and up to just a few hours ago, Van Jones on CNN, calling Charlie Kirk a demagogue and an irredeemable racist. And that is what Van Jones did on CNN's airwaves. Shame upon all of them. In fact, in just the hours after Charlie Kirk's announcement that he was shot, we didn't even know what was happening. There were guests on MSNBC that were saying he deserved it. These filthy demons. That is the problem, Megan.
Your president didn't even go to the funeral of the Minnesota lawmakers that were assassinated. Didn't even go. You had people actually raising money or joking about raising money or planning to raise money to bail out Nancy Pelosi's husband's assaulter.
I mean, I'm looking at Politico.com. I'm looking at the New York Times. I'm looking at all these places, and there's a little bit of mention here. For example, Politico says top Republicans reject any link between GOP rhetoric and Paul Pelosi assault. Of course you should reject any link. Why is the Republican Party, why is the conservative movement to blame for gay schizophrenic nudists that are hemp jewelry makers breaking into somebody's home, or maybe not breaking into somebody's home? Why are we to blame for that exactly? And why is he still in jail? Why has he not been bailed out? By the way, if some amazing patriot out there in San Francisco or the Bay Area wants to really be a midterm hero, someone should go and bail this guy out. I bet his bail's like $30,000 or $40,000. Bail him out and then go ask him some questions.
Your grief on the right is genuinely justified. Your inciting of civil war, your pretense that this is a single-sided issue is not. And you might say, but the left acted like it was just a right problem for the wrong time. Yeah, and you notice how you thought that that was the wrong thing to do? It's because it was. And I actually hate that we have to even go here, because I would like to just end the conversation at maybe political violence is always bad. Maybe no matter who's doing it, we could just all agree that it's really awful and it just doesn't justify future violence. You don't stand on the grave of a man who stood for free speech and say, well, you killed that guy, so now you have to deal with me, the war inciter. That's not what we do. That's not the next process. And to act like radicalization and political violence is a single-sided issue for either party, but particularly the right, is absurd. If you want to get into tit-for-tat stuff, let's go through some stats, because unfortunately, overwhelmingly, this is a right issue. More people have died by extremist right-wing violence than from the left. That is just a fact. That is just an uncomfortable fact. Since 2016, political violence has been massively on the rise. We're going to go over first the ADL's research on this, which ends in 2021, and then we're going to go through Routers that picks it up in 2021 to now. In 2021 alone, domestic extremists killed at least 29 people in the United States in 19 separate incidents. This represents a modest increase from the 23 extremist-related murders in 2020. Most of the murders, 26 out of 29, were committed by right-wing extremists, which is usually the case. However, 2 killings were committed by black nationalists and 1 by an Islamist extremist, the latter being the first of such killings since 2018. Routers. Since January 6, 2020, 93% of political violence assailants are right-wing. This is not a left-wing issue. This is, if it's anyone, a right-wing issue. And the pundits are using the death of a free speech advocate to try to justify war. Why? Why? Why do they even want war? Is it because they're worried that they won't win the midterms? Is that why we have to incite violence? Your president came out and blamed the left.
Campuses nationwide, he championed his ideas with courage, logic, humor, and grace. It's a long past time for all Americans and the media to confront the fact that violence and murder are the tragic consequence of demonizing those with whom you disagree day after day, year after year, in the most hateful and despicable way possible. For years, those on the radical left have compared wonderful Americans like Charlie to Nazis and the world's worst mass murderers and criminals. This kind of rhetoric is directly responsible for the terrorism that we're seeing in our country today, and it must stop right now. My administration will find each and every one of those who contributed to this atrocity and to other political violence, including the organizations that fund it and support it. From the attack on my life in Butler, Pennsylvania last year, which killed a husband and father, to the attacks on ICE agents, to the vicious murder of a healthcare executive in the streets of New York, to the shooting of House Majority Leader Steve Scalise and 3 others, radical left political violence has hurt too many innocent people and taken too many lives. Tonight, I ask all Americans to commit themselves to the American values for which Charlie Kirk lived and died, the values of free speech, citizenship, the rule of law, and the patriotic devotion and love of God. Charlie was the best of America, and the monster who attacked him was attacking our whole country. An assassin tried to silence him with a bullet, but he failed, because together we will ensure that his voice, his message, and his legacy will live on for countless generations to come. Today, because of this heinous act, Charlie's voice has become bigger and grander than ever before, and it's not even close. May God bless his memory. May God watch over his family. And may God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
I'm going to show you now some of the tweets following this. Barack Obama We don't know yet what motivated the person who shot and killed Charlie Kirk, but this kind of despicable violence has no place in our democracy. Michelle and I will be praying for Charlie's family tonight, especially his wife, Erica, and their 2 young children. Bernie Sanders. Political violence has no place in this country. We must condemn this horrifying attack. My thoughts are with Charlie Kirk and his family. Brian Tyler Cohen. The Charlie Kirk shooting is beyond horrific. Legitimately disgusted at the broken state of this country. Let's compare. Elon Musk. If they won't leave us in peace, then our choice is to fight or die. Libs of TikTok. This is war. Joey Manorino. The Democrat Party must be classified as a domestic terror organization and their members and leaders treated accordingly. Enough is enough. I just wanted to follow this up. This video was made 2 days after the shooting, and it is now, I believe, 4 days after the shooting. For those of you unaware of my following of the story, the man who was talking to Charlie Kirk when he was shot is my friend Hunter. His name is Staxiums. So I actually found out about this shooting very, very quickly. The immediate reaction that I saw was very hope-filling. It was liberals and Republicans kind of uniting and saying, we hope he's okay. We hope he survives. Violence is not okay. Everyone was condemning the violence. Everyone was wishing well. And it feels like the hat dropped somewhere around the evening after he died and it was confirmed that he had passed away. I suddenly saw name number accounts with like no following, having like 300,000 like comments celebrating Kirk's death, but also named accounts that I know, like Merrick, making nasty comments, this random channel named Danny, basically celebrating his death. So there was these truly what I would call leftists, the exact people who would cancel me are celebrating. But there's this tricky thing in that I understand that my broad big tent party has welcomed these people in. And so when conservatives or right-leaning people look at that and they say, well, they're part of the left, I go, not my left, but yeah, of course they are. It first started with a TikTok video that one of those anonymous Republican accounts clipped.
Live by the sword, die by the sword. He did say that gun deaths were an acceptable side effect of gun rights.
She has 88,000 followers. I think at the time of clipping, it had like 2,000 views. That gets 3.6 million views on Twitter. And the right reaction is what I showed you. And since then, it's further evolved in the last 2 days. I have been on Twitter a lot. I have been on Instagram and TikTok a lot, commenting and talking about this. And even in my moderate posts where I am imploring people to unite, to cool down, and to not divide, I'm even seeing a lot of posts of saying like, well, he was evil. Because I thought what people wore didn't justify violence done to them. I also thought that the things that people say doesn't justify assassinating them. That's what I thought. I thought free speech mattered in this country, and I guess not. It's hard to know how many of these accounts are bots, how many of these accounts are even Americans. It's hard to know, but it has been disappointing, and I wanted to give peace to that because I think this video will come off very one-sided without me acknowledging that this has occurred. I am imploring the same thing, which is unity and peace. I think it's important now more than ever that when Republicans see liberal speakers who are trying to cleave, as Dean Withers has just come out saying that if it's a party line of nonviolence and it's between the left and the right and that's how we're making it, he sides with the right, which I do too. If people are making it a party line, then we would go with the nonviolence every single time. The issue is that this is not a party line issue. If you're conservative and you're angry at the leftist reaction, I am too. Help us schism. Now more than ever is a chance for the left to purge this side of our community and to completely disavow them and say, they're not in my camp. And so when you see liberal content creators disavowing that, fighting against it, in the trenches against their own side, policing their own audience, please like, retweet, sub to them, engage with them, like give them the love. We vote with our attention. We really do. Vote with your attention. I want foundational democratic principles to win, first and foremost. So wanted to give that piece here. Back to the video. Grief is fair. If somebody killed a similar actor on the left, we would be just as enraged. We would be grieving just as deeply. I think the right should absolutely take time to grieve. There does have to be a cooling. Inciting war and inciting violence, not only is it not American, for a lot of you, it's not Christian either. I don't know where in the Bible you read that when your enemy treats you poorly, that you respond with greater violence, but that's not the Jesus that I've read about. turn the other cheek, is led before slaughter like a lamb. You might say, so what, you want us to just get slaughtered? No. I want you to cool your jets. I want you to look at Benny Johnson dropping just random talking points. Big Pharma has literally nothing to do with this killing. We don't even have evidence at this point that this kid was on medication at all. Not that it would have anything to do with this, because most people on medication don't assassinate people. Just spinning a narrative to unironically incite war. He says, this is the recipe for civil war. This recipe isn't happening, and if it is, it's certainly not one side. The left has been calling you fascist and Hitler and all these sorts of things, and I can agree that that is not helpful rhetoric. But on the other side, you guys will call us communists and groomers and pedophiles. You'll say that we're trying to take over and destroy the country, that you have to make America great again because the left is destroying it. Let's not pretend that this in-group, out-group dialogue is one-sided. It has never been one-sided. And you might say, well, Kyla, you're one of those good liberals. Be one of those good conservatives. Just do it. Just be one of those. Because our leaders were denouncing the violence while your leader was blaming the left for it and wouldn't even go to the funeral of assassinated politicians because they were Democrats. This is what we're talking about. And you might be like, yeah, but Trump gets vilified super unfairly, all this shit. In bad times, we need great, strong men. I said it in my last video. A strong man isn't a violent one. It's a principled one. And your leader is not showing his principles now. A good leader, like in the time of the attempt against Trump, is like Biden, who'd condemned the assassination. And you might say, well, Biden contributed to it as well. You're right, he did, and that's bad. And when push came to shove and violence occurred, he also condemned it. There's a lot more that I could talk about, like the bots. The FBI, when talking about trying to find Kirk's assassin, said that they were struggling with issues of misinfo and violence incitement from massive amounts of Chinese and Russian bots. When you see a large account saying something heinous, check to see if it's a real person. If it's just a name with a bunch of numbers after it, be suspicious. The bots are also liking each other. If you see a comment that's horrifying and there's 80K likes, ask yourself how many of those likes are bots. I don't know. I don't actually know. I do know that there are some accounts that had about 300K likes that were celebrating Kirk's death that, by everything that I can tell, looks pretty obviously to be a bot. But then there's Merrick, who also made a shitty post about Charlie Kirk and celebrated his death, and she got like 180K. So there are real bad actors on the left. I agree. Trust me, I've been fighting those people for a long time. If the left wants a good democracy, if liberals want a good democracy, we need to be willing to work and prop up conservatives that are good and healthy. To the right, for your democracy to work, you need a strong right and a strong left. When you see liberals denouncing it, when you see liberals praying for the Kirk family, asking for a cooling, being balanced and nuanced, when you see Mehdi Hassan outline that Kirk asked for his deportation, and then in the next sentence says, and I vehemently denounce the violence against him. Repost those people, like what they're saying, engage. That's how we take back our country from lying pundits who want to steal your grief for their own benefit and bots. Because there's a lot of those guys. Russia wants to see our democracy fall. So does China. Civil war would be awesome for Russia right now. And really bad for NATO right now. Make sure you go look at what Russia's up to. Not good. We need both. We need a strong left and right now more than ever. If you as a Republican are sick and tired of seeing nasty tankies and leftists doing nasty shit, that's totally fine. But don't paint that the brush of all of us. Paint that the brush of our extreme and ask us to clean up. To the left, you might not be the one celebrating Kirk's death, but if you're defending it, stop right now. Stop yesterday. To the right, if you see people inciting war, encouraging violence, denounce them. Push back against it. Don't watch their content. Unsubscribe for now. Or if you stay subscribed, leave a comment vehemently denouncing the actions. We have to band together, or the country will die. There has to be a united bipartisan front that says, actually, political violence is bad, and painting it as just the other side is enough. There has to be an ability where you can look at somebody across the aisle that you disagree with and still find community there. still find something worth unifying over. Because if there isn't, genuinely, then give up on democracy. You've already given up on it. But if we believe in the vision of the founding fathers, if we believe in the idea of the people having a say over what occurs to them politically, if that's what we believe in the miracle that democracy is, now more than ever, people should be standing for it. You see somebody that you don't totally agree with, but they're standing against violence right now, like them, retweet it, repost it, engage with them, get the eyes on the things that matter. In the economy, we vote with our dollar. In the attention economy, we vote with our attention. Give attention to good things. What does the Bible say? Keep your eyes on the good things. Mull on them constantly. If we want a more secular version, there are two wolves inside of you, and you have to decide which one you feed. I, for one, am imperfect. I don't always nail it. And sometimes I get really, really mad. And I act unbecomingly as a result of it. But I am trying to choose the light. And I'm begging you guys to choose the light with me. I'm not so erudite. I try to speak for the silent majority. If you want to hear more of these takes, like, follow, subscribe. And don't let yourself get radicalized. Big hugs, big kisses, think well. And I hope you have a day as wonderful as you are.